being reasonable doesn't work anymore. And I don't mean like being kind or ethical or thoughtful. I mean being the person that says, like, okay, wait a minute, let's slow down. Let's hear both sides. Let's be fair. Let's look at the data. That person, I mean, you just get steamrolled now at this point. Like, because the system that we're in no longer rewards reason. It rewards certainty, volume, and aggression. And if you're a reasonable person, that's incredibly disorienting. You know, it used to be back in the day that, reason was leverage. So not that long ago, and I'm like, even when I was just a kid, being reasonable was like what got you somewhere. Being irrational and being certain and aggressively glued to your ways was usually considered toxic and usually a problem. And if you were reasonable at work, you were the one that was going to get promoted. You were the one that everybody trusted. You were the one that became management. That was always kind of the way things used to be. But in our society today, it's completely the opposite. Because back then, we used to look at reasonable people as someone who was mature, somebody that you should listen to, somebody that had credibility. Reason was kind of like a currency. And if you were the person that spoke calmly and informed and fair, people assumed you were competent. That assumption is gone. We're seeing it in our leaders. We're seeing it in our corporate executives. We're seeing it in our teachers, our professors. I mean, we're seeing it across the board. That being unreasonable is like it's like a fucking illness at this point. That is just literally permeating everything. And there's a reason for that. And the system changed, I think, because well, here's the problem. Being reasonable only works when everyone's playing the same game. And I think that there was a time when we definitely knew that we were playing the same game. I don't think we live in that time anymore. Sorry, I'm just fixing something here. I just feel like being reasonable makes a lot of assumptions. And those assumptions are that truth matters, right? That there is a fact, truth, history really happened and is agreed upon, and we know what that is. And gravity is real. If I, pick this remote up and I drop it, it's going to fall. Good faith exists. There's rules that everyone sort of respects. But I don't feel like that's the game that we're playing anymore. That is not the game that we're playing anymore. The new game is who sounds the most confident and who draws the hardest line in the sand and who creates the most pressure. You know what I mean? Who's willing to burn the whole damn room down to prove to everybody that they're correct? And we've incentivized this because that type of behavior gets views. See, a lot of people, I've had some people that don't like me, have said to me, oh, your podcast is a joke. You know, you don't even have that many subs and very few people listen to you. And that's true. Very few people listen to me on purpose. Sorry, there's some noise going on out there. I hope you can't hear it. Very few people listen to me on purpose. And the reason why that is because I am not trying to cater to unreasonability. I'm not here to feed your emotions. I'm not here to tell you that, you know, your political beliefs are completely correct or completely false. I'm not here to dive into some conspiratorial nonsense and flip out with you about things that haven't been proven in the court of law. I just want to show up every day with a logical video and try to be reasonable with my assessments with everything that I talk about. And I feel like if you show up with logic while someone else is showing up with a fucking flamethrower, guess who's going to win? It's certainly not the reasonable guy. It's not the guy that shows up with the spreadsheet, breaks down the analytics, breaks down the data, and tries to explain to you, and you know, in no uncertain terms, what the data show. Right? That guy doesn't get a lot of views. That guy doesn't get a lot of likes. A lot of people don't want to listen to that guy talk. But certainty, it just destroys accuracy. It destroys accuracy in the ratings. People have gotten so radicalized and so crazy that accuracy doesn't win anymore. Certainty does. And there's no such thing as certainty. But here's what I think, but I could be wrong. Well, you lose. The moment you're like, but I could be wrong, you've lost them. But the truth is that you could be. I could be. We all could be. But the person who says, I'm 100% right and you're an idiot, well, that's the person that is going to get all the attention. The person who says, I'm 100% right about everything is the one who's going to get clicks and views, but not by people that will disagree with him. The person that's going to view you is going to be the person who agrees with you and only agrees with you, right? And so we wind up in the echo chambers that we have today where everybody's just feeding an echo chamber over and over and over again of what people want to hear. They win your attention, they win your loyalty, and they end up powerful and rich. Because the modern system of social media and politics, even corporate culture, it doesn't reward being right. It rewards being unambiguous. Nuance makes you look weak. The moment you start talking about nuance and trying to get into the weeds and which everything has nuance, the moment you try to break down the facts of the matter, it's long and it's boring, and that hesitation sounds fake to people. That complexity makes you sound like a coward. They'll just brush you off. Oh, look at you trying to over-explain. And that's why the people that are reasonable keep losing. And that's not good, man. Because reasonable people keep waiting around for when fairness is going to kick in. And this is where the real pain really sets in, because the rules, reasonable people believe that rules will be enforced. Reasonable people believe that the process will eventually correct things and that eventually the truth will matter. And so they wait. They wait for HR, and they wait for the courts, and they wait for elections, and they wait for accountability. Unreasonable people don't wait. They just apply pressure and they create consequences and they move the goalposts. And by the time the system finally catches up, the damage is already done. Reasonable people play defense in a game that rewards offense. Extremists get views. Extremists get clicks. They get lots of activity. Everybody's emotional and just waiting for a person to come on YouTube and tell them exactly what they want to hear. Or tell them exactly the opposite of what they want to hear so they could spend the rest of the night commenting and arguing with people. I mean, have you ever gone to CNN's YouTube? It's pretty hilarious. Everything under CNN is somebody who is a right-winger arguing with CNN. And if you go to Fox's YouTube, everyone that's in the comment section is a Democrat arguing with Fox. People are fascinated by going to the opposite extreme to argue. And we've arrived at a place where the loudest voices are defining the conversation. And the edges set the terms, the center just shifts. And reasonable people just keep saying, well, I don't fully agree with that, but and the system here is, okay, cool. You're not a threat. And I mean, look, extremists don't win you over because they persuaded you. They anchor you. They say, this is the line. And everyone else moves relative to that line. That's why being reasonable feels like standing still while the world like kind of slides sideways. And when you're reasonable and you don't have a lot of power or a huge platform, then you're just another idiot with an opinion, a nuanced opinion. And I think this is the part that nobody likes to admit. Being right doesn't really matter if you can't enforce it. Facts don't really protect you, and logic doesn't create consequences. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was telling me, and this particular friend of mine is a multimillionaire, and there's a reason why I'm bringing that up. And he said, the problem with the world today is that we need a news system that, you know, can be funded to tell reality instead of caving into one political ideology or the other. Then I said, well, you're the millionaire. You have millions of dollars. Create one. No. I'm not gonna. Exactly. Why? Because it's not profitable. And here we arrive again at the incentive system, right? Where if you want people to do the right thing, you need to make it where doing the right thing has more of an incentive than doing the wrong thing. And if the vast majority of people are glued to radical extremism and being completely irrational and unreasonable, you're not going to get a lot of views by just delivering the logical facts and the truth of the news. And that's capitalism. They have an incentive to feed the audience exactly what they want. And those incentives are profits. They have an obligation to their shareholders to bring in money and to bring in profits. And everybody that has owned shares of these networks wants those networks to do well so that they can make money. And so therefore, they continue to feed the radical extremists on both sides of the aisle. Reason only works when it's backed by incentives, enforcement, and leverage. And until we do that, it's just another well-articulated suggestion. And I think that's where I'm at with a lot of my friends right now. A lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis are just constantly wanting to hit me up, flipping out and yelling about how bad things are and how they don't like what's happening in America, or like how they don't like what's going on with all of these things and rapid technology and all this stuff. And it's like, look, man, like, as much as I'd like to sit here and listen to you, the truth of the matter is that all you're doing is just repetitive, well-articulated suggestions that are never going to go anywhere, because you don't have a platform, you don't have any power, you don't have any money, and you don't have any backing. And everything that you're suggesting should happen doesn't have somebody gaining an incentive from it. And we know that now. You know, over the last 20 years, people who got on the internet and told the most ridiculous, outlandish conspiracy theory nonsense that sort of, I guess you could say, interdicted internet attention and decided to, you know, move it along in the direction it chose. There was money behind how that happened. That's it. People were getting paid. There's a lot of YouTubers that don't even believe anything that comes out of their mouth. That's the truth. And it's funny because a lot of you say, oh, the hell with the media, that's all fake. I go to the internet for my information. It's like as if the internet's any better than the news. Like as if they're not trying to get paid just like the news. What the fuck are you talking about? What's the difference? What the fuck is the difference? In fact, it's worse. Because at least when a corporation is trying to get paid, they have corporate social responsibility. And there's actually things going on inside that corporation where power kind of gets checked sometimes within the corporation. An individual in their basement trying to get views, who the fuck's checking him? Nobody. Nobody. He'll fucking say whatever it takes to get you to watch. He'll get on YouTube and fucking tell you whatever the fuck you want to hear. If you believe that the sky is blue or the sky is green, he'll come on there and he'll tell you the sky is green every day. He'll make all these fucking videos like forging projections, forcing Grok to type out some fake bullshit that the sky is blue. He'll do, or the sky is green rather. He'll do whatever it takes to continue to keep on shoving that down your throat because that's what you want to fucking hear. Even if he gets up every day and looks up and goes, it's a blue sky, but look at all the money I'm making. But you trust that. Meanwhile, you have these news agencies, these buildings that have thousands of employees and hundreds of investigative journalists, many whom have an oath to their job to basically investigate and report the facts. And am I saying that the top down at legacy news channels hasn't put pressure on them not to release certain stories and information? Sure. Especially if it's going to hurt their pockets. That happens. But the idea that every single thing that you think that they're investigating and putting out there on that network is all horseshit, but then believing some guy's YouTube channel who has no oversight and is just saying whatever the fuck he wants, kind of seems a little bit crazy to me. It kind of seems a little bit crazy to me that anybody would be okay in accepting of that. I mean, they are making money grifting off of that irrationality. They know you're irrational. They know you're unreasonable. They know you're emotional and radical. And they're like, I want to feed that storm and I want to get paid. And, reasonable people, and this is the difficult situation that I feel like reasonable people are in, is that when you try to reason with people, you don't want to feel like you're insulting them or condescending them. And so it becomes so difficult to try to be reasonable in any engaging way. Because when the facts do not fit somebody's bias, they really freak out. Now, I'm not saying that people that are unreasonable is the same thing as being reckless. Let's be clear, this is not a call to be insane. I'm not asking, but there's a difference between being unreasonable and being unmovable. And unreasonable says, I don't care who I hurt. Unmovable is like, this is the line, cross it, and there are consequences. And reasonable people are often afraid to draw lines because they don't want to conflict. But in the overall scheme of things, you're just losing quietly. That's all that's happening. And the hidden cost of staying reasonable, and this is what I think nobody ever talks about, being reasonable is an unreasonable system. It doesn't just make you ineffective, it burns you out. You end up feeling invisible, disrespected. God, disrespected's a big one. You get exhausted, so you withdraw. You disengage. You even stop caring, stop trying. And that's the real danger, because extremism isn't what brings the system to its knees. The system completely collapses when the reasonable people check the fuck out. Because reasonable people are sitting there going, what's the point? And people keep confusing being reasonable with like being passive or something, or being weak. And, you can be principled and still apply pressure. You could be ethical and still say no, and you could be calm and still be dangerous. But we live in this world where it's like, if you're not loud, nobody believes you. Everything is performative. Masculinity is performative. Femininity is performative. I mean, we have really become a performative society. I mean, fucking nothing is real anymore. It's all just a shit show of make pretend. It's infuriating. Being reasonable isn't failing because it's wrong or it's the wrong approach. It's failing because we as a society have stopped protecting it. We have stopped valuing it. So in a society where everybody's trying to survive, how does somebody stay reasonable? How do I stay principled? Like, without winding up harmless. That's the game now. That's where we are. Anyway, this is Tom Kane. This is another episode of the Executives Playbook. And I really appreciate everybody that listens. For those of you watching this on YouTube, please like the channel, subscribe, hit the little bell so you can get notified. You know the whole deal. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for watching.